We tore the Tzenkethi apart, ripping through their bodies until blue blood drenched the battlefield, and they realized they would be wiped out if they ever provoked our wrath again. Tyler Hunter slumped over his drink in a dim, seedy bar on the Tzenkethi homeworld. Raucous alien chatter and the stench of cheap booze filled the air. Aliens of all kinds, the scum of Tzenkethi society, sat hunched over the bar. A short, tentacled Tzenkethi named Pryler approached, sliding onto the stool next to Tyler. His voice quavered as he leaned in close. "You're him, aren't you? The human, Tyler Hunter. You led the defense of Epsilon 9. Tyler locked eyes with Pryler and nodded slowly, his brow furrowed. "Yeah, what about it?" Pryler glanced around the bar, then dropped his voice to an urgent hiss. "My people need your help. We Tzenkethi have made a grave error. We dared to attack the humans, and now we've incurred your species' terrifying wrath." Tyler scoffed and took a long swig of his drink. The glass clinked on the bar. "Pissed off humanity, did you? Must have done more than just block our parking spaces." Pryler shook his head, his tentacles writhing. "Much worse. In our arrogance, we assaulted the New Haven human colony, assuming it easy prey. We couldn't have been more wrong." Pryler paused, his voice cracking with emotion. "The human colonists, they butchered us. Thousands of our best warriors died, dozens of warships destroyed. We limped away, broken. And now—" A shudder racked Pryler's small frame. "The Terran Defense Force mobilizes to wipe out the Tzenkethi species in retaliation. Our doom is at hand if we cannot stop this war we've begun." Tyler leaned back and crossed his arms. He stared long and hard at Pryler, considering the plea. The seconds stretched out. At last, Tyler drained his drink and rose to his feet. "I'll hear you out, but no promises. Attack humanity and you're lucky to still be breathing. This idea of yours to grovel for peace had better be good. Damn good." Tyler's eyes flashed. "Or I'll be the one leading the assault to annihilate every last stinking one of you myself." Tyler rose from his stool, motioning for Pryler to lead the way. The Tzenkethi scurried out of the bar, Tyler close behind. They made their way through the dark, winding streets until they reached a secluded alley. Pryler approached a nondescript wall and pressed his tentacle against a hidden panel. With a hiss, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a dimly lit passageway. They descended a narrow staircase, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, they emerged into a large underground bunker. A group of Tzenkethi leaders stood huddled around a central table, their faces grave. One of the leaders, a grizzled old warrior with a scar across his eye, stepped forward. "I am Zorgath," he said, his voice low and rasping. "The Terran Defense Force has already blockaded our system. They've given us an ultimatum: surrender unconditionally or face total annihilation." Tyler frowned, his mind racing. What exactly did you do on New Haven? How did a simple raid turn into a full-scale war? Pryler looked away, shame etched on his face. "We underestimated the humans' resolve. When our forces landed on New Haven, we expected the colonists to flee or surrender. Instead, they took up arms and fought back with a fury we'd never encountered before. They used guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, and improvised weapons to drive us back." He paused, swallowing hard. "And when we finally broke through their defenses and reached the colony's capital, we found—" His voice trailed off, and he shuddered at the memory. "We found children, human children, manning the barricades. They fought alongside their parents, their grandparents, with a bravery that shook us to our core." Pryler's voice cracked. We killed them. So many of them. And then, as we stood over their bodies, we heard a sound that will haunt us forever. The wail of 1,000 grieving mothers, fathers, and siblings rising up in a chorus of rage and pain." The bunker fell silent, the weight of Pryler's words hanging in the air. Finally, Tyler spoke. "You fucked up big time. The TDF doesn't take kindly to those who harm our children. But if you're serious about making amends, about finding a way to avoid total war, then I might be able to help. But it won't be easy, and it won't be pretty. You'll have to humble yourselves, beg for forgiveness, and offer up something truly valuable in return. And even then, there's no guarantee the TDF will accept. but it's your only chance. The Tzenkethi leaders exchanged glances, their expressions grim. Finally, Zorgath nodded. We'll do whatever it takes. Our species' survival depends on it. What do you suggest, Tyler Hunter? Tyler took a deep breath, his mind already formulating a plan. First, we need to buy some time. I'll contact the TDF and request a temporary ceasefire so we can negotiate. But that's just the beginning. To have any hope of success, we'll need to... Tyler's voice faded as the scene transitioned, the bunker disappearing into darkness. Tyler stood stiffly on the bridge of the Terran Defense Force flagship. His eyes were sunken, lips pressed thin. A panel of human admirals stared at him, haggard and weary from the fighting. The Tzenkethi surrender unconditionally, Tyler said, exhaustion weighing his voice. They'll disband their armies. They'll accept human occupation. In return, we won't wipe them out completely. The admirals slowly nodded. Some rubbed stubbled faces. One, an old soldier with a scar down his cheek, frowned deeply. Letting them live, it's hard to swallow. After all the blood they spilled on New Haven, I want to see their planets glassed. But you're right, Hunter. Killing the defenseless is what separates us from scum like them. We're better. Tyler's gaze drifted, seeing something beyond the viewport. I pray the Tzenkethi finally understand. I hope they never again doubt what humanity will do if pushed. The view shifts. Now we see the Tzenkethi homeworld from orbit. Pryla stands before a plaza packed with his kind. His head hangs low, eyes on the cracked ground. The humans, we surrender to them, Pryla says, voice shaking. We have no alternative but to live under their control. But let us take this to heart. Never again can we risk angering humanity. Never forget how much we lost because we thought them weak. The camera pulls back, panning over the gathered crowd. It shows a world in ruins. Towers collapsed into rubble, homes blasted to shells. Tzenkethi faces are hollow, eyes haunted. On the horizon, shadows of human warships loom. Smoke rises from wrecked cities, a silent reminder of the price of defiance. Darkness falls over the scene. The narrator speaks, voice heavy with sorrow. In their arrogance, the Tzenkethi roused the sleeping giant of humanity's wrath. They paid dearly, their fleets burnt, their cities crumbled, their pride turned to dust. But despite it all, they were fortunate. Fortunate humanity stayed its hand from genocide, that we rose above base vengeance and showed mercy, even to those who murdered our children. For that is humanity's true power, not our mighty fleets or terrible weapons, but our decency, our compassion, our ability to forgive even the gravest of trespasses. That is a lesson that Tzenkethi and every race in the stars would be wise to take to heart. Years had passed since the bloody conflict between humanity and the Tzenkethi. Scarred and chastened by the war's devastating toll, the Tzenkethi eked out a meager existence under the watchful eye of their human overseers. In a dark subterranean chamber, the flickering glow of a holographic display cast eerie shadows across the lined face of Pryla, now a withered old man. The once proud Tzenkethi warrior sat hunched, his tentacles drooping with age. Beside him, a group of young Tzenkethi stood rigidly at attention, their eyes fixed on the wavering images before them. "You must understand," Pryla rasped, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "This is the price of our hubris, the price of daring to challenge the might of humanity." With a trembling tentacle, Pryla tapped a button on the console. The display sputtered to life, revealing grainy footage of the fateful battle on New Haven. Human soldiers surged across the war-torn landscape like an unstoppable tide, their weapons blazing with righteous fury. Tzenkethi warriors crumpled before the onslaught, their broken bodies littering the blood-soaked ground. Pryla's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he watched the carnage unfold. "We were so arrogant," he murmured, his voice heavy with regret. "We thought we could crush the humans, bend them to our will. But we were wrong. So very wrong." The scene shifted, the camera panning over the aftermath of the battle. Human soldiers knelt amidst the rubble, cradling the lifeless bodies of their fallen comrades. In the distance, The shattered ruins of the Tsenkethi capital smouldered beneath a leaden sky. "They could have annihilated us," Pryla whispered, his voice trembling. "Wiped our species from the face of the galaxy, and we would have deserved it after what we did to their children. But they showed us mercy, mercy we did not deserve." The footage flickered and died, plunging the chamber into darkness. Pryla turned to face the young warriors, his eyes boring into theirs. "This is our legacy," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "The legacy of our foolishness, our arrogance. We must never forget the lesson we learned that day, the lesson written in the blood of our fallen." The warriors nodded solemnly, their faces etched with grim understanding. Pryla sighed, his shoulders sagging beneath the weight of his memories. "We must never again provoke the wrath of humanity," he said, his voice a hoarse whisper in the gloom. "For if we do, there will be no mercy, no hope of survival, only the cold embrace of oblivion." As the scene faded to black, the narrator's voice echoed through the darkness, heavy with the weight of history. "The Tsenkethi learned the true cost of their aggression," the narrator intoned. "They paid for their arrogance with the lives of their warriors, the destruction of their cities, the shattering of their pride. But in the end, they gained a bitter wisdom, a knowledge that some forces in the universe are not to be trifled with." The voice paused as if lost in contemplation. "The humans, for all their capacity for mercy, are one such force, a sleeping giant, slow to anger but terrible in its wrath. That Tsenkethi, and all the races of the galaxy, would do well to remember this lesson, to remember the price of provoking the fury of Earth." The narrator fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. In the darkness that Tsenkethi endured, forever changed by the scars of the war. A once proud people, now humbled by the bitter fruit of their own aggression. But even in defeat, there was the glimmer of hope, the chance for redemption. For the Tsenkethi knew that they had been given a second chance, a chance to rebuild and learn from their mistakes. And though the road ahead would be long and hard, they would walk it with the knowledge that they had looked into the abyss of their own destruction and survived. The display flickered once more, and a final image appeared. A human and a Tsenkethi standing side by side, their faces set with determination, a symbol of the fragile peace that now existed between their people, a peace bought with blood and sacrifice. And as the image faded, the narrator's voice echoed one final time, a whisper in the darkness. From the ashes of war, a new understanding was born. An understanding that the path to true strength lies not in conquest and domination, but in cooperation and mutual respect. For only together can the races of the galaxy hope to face the challenges that lie ahead. This is the legacy of the war between humanity and the Tsenkethi, a legacy of pain and loss, but also of hope and redemption, a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is always the chance for a brighter tomorrow. The candle's flame guttered in a draught, making the shadows leap across Tyler's haggard face. He sat hunched on a threadbare cot, staring down at the ornate metal box cradled in his calloused hands. The fate of an entire species rested in that box, in his hands. Tyler turned the box over, studying the swirling patterns etched into its surface, patterns that seemed to writhe like living things in the candlelight. He'd never asked for this responsibility, this terrible power, to be the arbiter of an entire race's destiny. But the Tsenkethi's crimes on New Haven, the innocent blood they'd spilled, had left him no choice. With a deep breath, Tyler opened the box. The candle's glow reflected off a small crystal nestled within. It pulsed softly, like a tiny heartbeat. Tyler's own heart thudded in his chest as he lifted the crystal out, rolling it between his fingers. So small, so innocuous, yet within its facets lay encoded a genetic weapon that could annihilate the Tsenkethi with a single command, render them sterile, their race doomed to a slow extinction. Tyler's hand trembled. The crystal seemed to burn against his skin. It would be so easy. One word, and the Tsenkethi would pay the ultimate price for their sins. His jaw clenched as the screams of butchered children echoed in his mind. the wails of grieving mothers. The Tzenkethi deserved to suffer as humanity had suffered. They deserved oblivion. "I could do it," Tyler whispered into the darkness, his voice cracking. "I could end you, His words trailed off. Tears blurred his vision. He blinked them away angrily. Humanity was better than this, better than vengeance. If he used this weapon, he'd be no different than the monsters who'd slaughtered innocents on New Haven. The cycle of bloodshed had to end. With a ragged sigh, Tyler closed the box. The latch clicked with a sound like a gunshot in the stillness. He set the box aside, his choice made. "The Tzenkethi will live," Tyler declared softly. "As we have suffered, so shall you. The weight of your sins will haunt you for generations, but you will live." He stood, squaring his shoulders beneath the burden of mercy. In the end, that is what separates us. The capacity for compassion, even now, even after everything. Tyler crossed to the room's single window. Beyond the cracked glass, the broken skyline of the Tzenkethi homeworld stretched to the horizon. Shattered towers and scorched earth, a civilization laid low by its own hubris. "This galaxy will remember," Tyler said. His voice echoed in the barren room, a solemn vow. "The Tzenkethi will remember, humanity will remember, but we will endure, we will rebuild, and we will never allow such horrors again." The human turned from the window, leaving the ruined city and the terrible, blessed burden of mercy behind. The narrator spoke into the silence that followed, his words heavy with the weight of history. And so the war ended, not with a final salvo, but with a whisper of compassion. In sparing the Tzenkethi, even after their unforgivable crimes, humanity proved itself the greater species, not through strength of arms, but strength of spirit. There would be no celebration, no parades, only the grim task of rebuilding, healing the scars left by the conflict, teaching the next generation the hard-learned lessons paid for in blood. But a fragile hope took root amidst the ashes, hope that this tragedy would not be in vain, that from immeasurable loss a new era of peace could grow, a peace built on the memory of shared pain, on the knowledge that no race was beyond redemption, if only they had the courage to seek it. It was an uncertain future, a tenuous dream, but it was a dream worth striving for. For in the pursuit of that dream, in the struggle for understanding, lay the greatest victory of all, a victory of empathy over enmity, of unity over division, a victory of the soul. And so this bloody chapter ended and a new story began, one that would echo across the stars for generations to come, a story not of conquest, but of compassion. For in the end, it is not the battles we win that define us. The narrator's words hung in the air as the scene began to fade. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.